Writing description. Too much is too bad. When you're writing description for anything, cats in the view, writing too much is a problem. Now, there's some great writers out here who have done incredible by giving up too much description. Tolkien is one that I think of all the time. Robert Jordan was another one. Now, these are both medieval fantasy, epic fantasy authors, so maybe you don't recognize their names if you don't read that sort of thing, but you've heard of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The Hobbit had a fair amount of detail and description. Lord of the Rings had a lot. I've had artistic friends, people who draw, paint, etc. Loved it. That was their thing. It gave them every detail so they could paint the picture in their head. Most folks, though, don't need that much description, get turned off by it. So what I recommend is when describing a scene, when setting up a scene, this is my personal recommendation, this is what's worked for me, and the folks that I've recommended it to seem to respond positively to it. Write to the five senses. Touch on each of the five senses if you can. The reader will fill the rest in with their mind. If you give it was an autumn day, that fills in a lot. But if you mention there was a crisp wind, it's got feel. And the smell of wood smoke filled the air. That now touches on smell. Okay, so we touched feel and smell. Looking across the yard, the golden brown and russet leaves swayed in the wind. We now have sight. Got 3 out of 5. We just haven't touched on taste and hearing. The sound of the wind, rustling leaves, and whirlwind patterns. You get the idea. Now, how do you cover taste in there? Somebody will be like, you can't cover taste. Yeah, you can. It could be something like, and John sat up with the coppery taste of blood in his mouth. Now, you're not always going to have the taste of blood in your character's mouth. But it could be something else. It could be, if they're at the ocean, sometimes you get a salty taste in your mouth. Remember, taste is largely part of the sense of smell. You smell more with your mouth open. Smell more as in a quality of smell. Not more often. Not because there are actually receptors on the tongue. So, keep that in mind. You won't always hit all 5. All 5 won't be appropriate. If they're in pitch black, you don't have to say, it was pitch black and they couldn't see anything. You can give that, but you can give it in other ways also. Unable to see anything, John listened in the dark. Slight crackling noises issued from beyond. You know, you get the idea. So, don't give too much. This goes for a description of a character also, saying Travis's hair was coiffed perfectly and his mustache was impeccable. His black shirt was crisp, the collar folded, the sleeves rolled up as he leaned back in his chair, it creaking. He was a chubby, middle-aged man who had 3 earrings, 2 in the left, 1 in the right, and didn't wear any jewelry, which made him stand out that much more. Okay, that's too much. If you put something like, Travis, though well-groomed, resembled the mayor of the Lollipop Guild and the Wizard of Oz because of his mustache, people now fill in a lot more. Okay, don't use that description. It's horribly worded. But you get the idea. John looked like a mobster, not just because of his broken nose, but because of the way he carried himself and the clothes he wore. Now, you don't have to fill anything else in. People are going to have an image of John. whatever they imagine a mobster is. But you know he's a broken nose. Just like the whole showing instead of telling. Instead of saying, John was strong and built like a bodybuilder, you can always say, and John lifted the chair to throw it at the door, his muscles rippling, showing frequent use. Showing instead of telling. Anyhow, you get the idea, you get the gist. Show, don't tell. Too much description is bad. Let people's minds fill it in. They'll like that. Of course, too little is bad too. Going John the mobster, walk towards somebody, doesn't tell you a whole lot about him. Let me know your thoughts below, how you like to do things, and make sure you subscribe.